Good evening, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy and Passionate World Talk Radio. It is Monday, April 6th, and I want to wish everybody an early happy Easter, happy Passover, and I know it will be a different way this year to celebrate, but celebrate however you can with your loved ones and enjoy being with your loved ones. And I want to thank all the first responders, nurses, doctors, cashiers, everyone who puts their life on the line every day to serve others and to help others. A big thank you from me and Passionate World Talk Radio. Tonight I have a special guest. All my guests are special. I want to introduce my friend, Jeanne Adams, who was a caregiver to several of her family members, and she's a girl after my own heart. Welcome, Jeanne.
Hi.
Hi, Jeanne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Betsy?
Good, thanks. I know that you took care of a few family members, if I remember correctly. I know your mom, your dad, your father-in-law?
Yes.
Oh,
and my
good, I
mother
remembered.
For her last 3 days. So I was in on that one for the tail end of it.
Wow. And how many years would you say that is altogether?
It was 8 years. My dad was 5 years. He had cardio issues, heart disease and that, and lung issues. And so took care of him for his last 5 years and took care of my mother and my father-in-law with Alzheimer's, dementia, both together in our home. Two of them for 2 years, and then my father-in-law passed away, and then I had my mother for the last year by herself.
And I followed you taking care of your mom and showing the video clips of your mom sundowning. How was your experience different between your mom and your father-in-law or your father?
Yeah. So my father had sundowners, even though he didn't have dementia, and he would just like cry in the evening. He didn't know why. I'd just be so sad. Well, with the Alzheimer's and dementia, my mother and my father-in-law both sundowned, but they were both different. But we get real agitated and paced. Mom, she got violent. I mean, she would just, it was so bad agitation. She would get in my car. She'd be screaming out in the driveway, and I live out in the country. Thank God I have, understanding neighbors that knew what was going on. She did. She swung on me. I ripped 3 stitches out of my hand one day. I just had surgery on my hands, and it was horrible. It was just they're so agitated, and they're just out of it with agitation, and they're confused. They just don't know what they're doing. It's just total insanity with agitation on top of it. It's horrible.
Yes. How did you handle your mother with the sundowning? Did your mom have hallucinations?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was times where she would talk to she would just be in the room talking to people that weren't there. There was times that she would see things like she would be picking stuff off her clothes, like hallucinations, something crawling on her. She would hallucinate about a lot of things. Get very agitated. She would swing on me. She was very violent. It was really hard.
What was your mom's personality before Alzheimer's?
My mom's personality was very mild-tempered. Of course, she could be, everybody can get angry, but she was really passive and throughout her life. And then, but as she got deeper into the Alzheimer's and started the really bad sundowning, that changed. And she would get just there would be outbursts, And so she became violent. Yeah, the first time she swung on me, I grabbed her hand in the midair and said, "Oh, you don't want to do that." I didn't know what to do. But yeah, so she was really mild-mannered, but then as she got into it, it's like just opposites. They turn totally opposite a lot of times of who they really are.
Yes. I was fortunate with Matt that he basically stayed the same, but his mom, just like your mom, very quiet, and then turned violent.
Yeah.
So I can understand, what a shock that is. How did you handle your mom's change of behavior, and how did you deal with it?
Well, I thought I dealt with it really well at the time. I just pretty much, what I did personally is I would just stuff any irritation or anger. I would stuff it and remain as calm sounding and acting as I could. Because if I would have got upset and shown how upset I was, it would have been way worse, and I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's bad enough, they know that something's not right. They know they're out of touch with reality, and they're scared to death. And so if the volume gets turned up on that, it's just going to make it worse. So I would just stuff it. But my husband helped me with caregiving through all this, and so I had help. I mean, we were both stuck in it together, but, if we had little signals, and if I just waved at him and said, "I'm going to the store for like a 5-minute break," and so he would take over. So those are things we would do, but, you just do what you can do to survive it. I mean, you find the little quirks that settles them down, or distractions, redirecting sometimes. Other than that, I don't know how else you could deal with it. That's what we did, and it seemed we survived it.
Was your mom placed on any medications for her hallucinations or behavior?
Yeah, her doctor had put her on, first they tried the gabapentin for the sundowning. That had side effects. I don't really care for that drug, but it had side effects, so she couldn't take that. And so they gave her, Vistarel. And that's actually like an antihistamine, but it makes you tired. And so I would give Mom one of those 3 times a day. It's pretty low dose, like 25 milligrams, and it would relax her. And she would take a little nap, and so it did help. But there were days, they gave her Klonopin too, and that's a very heavy benzodiazepine, and there were days where she just motored right through that. That didn't even phase her. So they get so wound up and so out of it that I don't think any drug some days will affect them.
Yes, I definitely can understand what you're saying. Jan, when you became a caregiver for your mom, you already had some experience. Did you belong to, I know I met you in a support group on Facebook, but did you belong to any groups prior to your first caregiving experience? Did you find any information to help you?
No. So this Alzheimer's has been in our family for a long time. My mother's mother had it when I was a little girl. So I saw this at 8 years old. So I knew, Grandma was a wanderer, real sweet lady, but she would hallucinate and stuff. So I remember that as a young girl. And so when I started taking care of my mom, of course, my memory would go, I would recognize things. But no, I had no experience. And actually, the first group where we met, I just found that when I was kind of pretty well into caregiving with Mom and my father-in-law, Bud. We had them both. So that was my first group. I had talked to Alzheimer's Awareness, I think was the name of it. And they gave really good information for just different things like issues with family members and my mom and how to deal with that. And so I could text them. It wasn't like a group, but I had a professional that was guiding me through situations and how to deal with it.
Well, that's great. Now, is that just in your local area where you live, or is that national? Do you know?
That one deal that I was with was that outfit was out of San Diego, California, but they were. I just ran across them on Facebook.
Oh, okay. And would you suggest to people who are hearing this that a caregiver needs to be educated prior as they can to caregiving, but definitely when they become a caregiver to be educated in knowing what to expect, although, living with it and reading it is two different things, but at least they would be knowledgeable as to know what to expect.
Absolutely. I went to school. I'm a medical assistant and phlebotomist, but I had no medical training for this. Absolutely none. And I got so much support from the couple of groups that I was in, major support. There's a lot of wisdom there. There's a lot of experience. And I think absolutely, if you see something down the future for you and you're considering being a caregiver for anybody, absolutely get in groups, go to gatherings, because I know they have a lot of support gatherings for caregivers. I wasn't able to do that, but I think reach out and educate yourself all that you can, and just be the sponge and soak it up, because you're going to need every bit of it and then some. And plus you're going to need support from other people, emotional support.
Yes. I know that I myself, when I was starting with my mother-in-law, there wasn't the support, there wasn't the information, because this was 1999, 2000. And even with Matt, 10 years ago, there wasn't much information with early onset. But I was more prepared with Matt in dealing with his hallucinations than I was with my mother-in-law, because, Jan, I was a licensed practical nurse. I didn't know about Alzheimer's. I didn't know about hallucinations, and I was flabbergasted. And I'm not proud about it, but I didn't handle my mother-in-law's hallucinations. I would yell at her. I didn't know any better. I didn't know you weren't supposed to argue about someone having a hallucination. So you know what? People, I can laugh about it now. Not that it's funny, but, you have to have a weird sense of humor to get through this caregiving. You do the best you can with what you know at that time, for sure. And, as you become more experienced, and you had experience, I had experience, I don't think it's fair that some people get more than one turn at caregiving for someone with Alzheimer's, but you learn, and each person is so different. Would you agree with that, Jan?
Oh, absolutely.
With your experience?
Yes. Yeah, everybody's different. Each and every one of them are different. Yeah.
How long did your mom have Alzheimer's?
I think.
And how old was she when she started?
It was in, I think she was diagnosed in 2010. So about 9 years, because she passed away a year ago. It was just a year ago, March 28th.
Wow.
And I always, and you know this through our group, Betsy, my mom and Matt, I went there hand in hand, Betsy. So it was about the same amount of time, wasn't it?
Yes, Matt was diagnosed in 2010.
Yeah.
And he passed away in January of this year, January 1st. And, a lot of similarities between your mom and Matt.
There was a lot. Yeah, in fact, you were videoing Matt on his journey, and I videoed Mom a little bit and shared in our group with that because people didn't know about sundowning. And I still see in my group that I'm in now, I'm still there, and I still see people going, why are they doing this? What's going on? And I always try and try and let them know that's probably sundowning. You probably want to, research that, and that's probably what's going on. And so, yeah, sundowning was a big deal. It was crazy.
Yes, and for those who are listening and you may not know what sundowning is usually starts, and it varies with everybody. It could start 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, especially if it gets dark earlier. And you could see a whole personality change. They will become restless. They'll become agitated. They'll hallucinate. Their brains are tired at that time. A dementia brain gets very tired. And at the end of the day, it's like their brains have had it. And this is when their agitation starts. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that with my mother-in-law. And how I wished there was information. I wish there was people like you, Jan, like Marcia Burr, Christina Turner, and many others talking on the radio, talking about their experience. And this is why I know I sound like a broken record. For those of us who remember records, caregivers, post-present, you need to come on and tell your story because your experience helps somebody else. Because, you just don't know some things, and it's the caregivers. I'm going to be really blunt here, as I usually am. It's the caregivers who learn from other caregivers. It's not that you learn from your doctor. You're not going to learn from your doctor. He might tell you about a place. It's the caregivers who are teaching other caregivers. Wouldn't you say so, Jan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much wisdom with the caregivers. The doctors, all they do, and I'm not, putting down any doctors, but they treat the symptoms. That's all they do. They treat the symptoms. That's what they know is the symptoms. We know the life.
Right.
So, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The caregivers, that's where we get the support and the wisdom from, and the knowledge, and what to do, what not to do, try this, try that. There's a million different things I would have never dreamed of trying that worked at times.
Yes. I learned, so many things from being, in different caregiving groups. And I was seasoned, unfortunately. But even as a seasoned veteran caregiver, I don't know everything. I didn't know everything. I couldn't figure out one time why, I could laugh now, why Matt couldn't get into the bathtub. Because I had the old-fashioned bathtub where you have to step in it, and it's also a shower. I couldn't figure out why all of a sudden he was afraid. I know they were afraid of water. What it was is the bathtub is white, so he couldn't see it. So a friend of mine told me, Betsy, get a bright-colored bath mat, and that way Matt could see. And they have vision problems. A lot of people with dementia, depth perception problems. So I brought a hot pink bath mat, and he was able to see to get in. Excuse me, but these are the little things that you learn as you go along in a caregiving group, and the support, because to be honest, no one can support another person better than one who's been through it. Yes,
true.
And
nobody can support them like that.
Yeah, and this is why, there's a lot of people, and I understand why somebody would walk away from an Alzheimer's, group or dementia group because, they've had enough, they can't deal with it anymore. But when post-caregivers stay in a group and offer support to what I call the newbies, it's so helpful. It's so helpful when someone with experience like you, Jan, and many others can stay in a group and say, you know what, I experienced this. This is what was my solution. Maybe it might help you. Of course, everyone's different. What worked for you, Jan, may not have worked for me and at my situation. But you get ideas and you get information. The changing and exchanging of ideas and information, which I think it's fantastic, and support groups.
It is. And it's so, for me, it was so reassuring. It would give me hope, like, oh, I can do this. There's other ways, and so, and it's just the emotional support that lifted me up more than anything throughout my time caregiving, because it's really hard. I mean, you're doing 24/7, and
yes.
You don't get a break. You don't get a break.
Yes.
You just.
And I know we had just talked prior to coming on, and I don't want to sound like I'm being harsh, folks, but with this pandemic, I want you all to know, and we're going to hear Jan's opinion, social isolation, this is nothing new to a caregiver. We are isolated, and not just for a few months, for years. For years, a caregiver is isolated depending upon how long their loved one lives with their particular dementia. Would you like to speak on that, Jan?
Oh, yeah. It's like you don't get a break. We did this we took care of my dad for the last 5 years of his life. We took care of Mom and my father-in-law, Bud, for over a year before we got our first 2-day break. And it's from the moment they wake up, which could be 2 or 3 in the morning. I mean, it's not a normal thing. And so you're up protecting this person against themselves for as long as they're up. And so when you go to bed at night, you kind of sleep with one eye open. And so there is no break. And nobody wants to come and visit people that have to live like that, because it's depressing, it's insanity. And so, yeah, we don't have any. I mean, now we have company a little bit, but we didn't have company for years. So I don't even feel this thing isn't cramping my style, because I've been staying home for years.
Yes.
You sacrificed your life. And so, yeah, this thing, I don't feel deprived of any opportunities. There's nothing going on anyway. I'm used to it. I've been isolated for 8 years. You sacrifice your life. That's what you do. So, yeah, during this time, this is no different for me. There's a virus out there. I'm aware of that. But, I mean, as far as my social network or behavior or anything, it hasn't changed anything in my life.
Yes, and you know what? I hope if anything good could come out of this pandemic, I would hope that it would be people being more kind to each other and people realizing what caregivers go through. And I just read an article, Jan, in my paper about a young man who's caregiving for his parents. And more young people are going to be taking care of their parents if their parents get this COVID-19. Not even talking about having dementia, but they're going to be getting, unfortunately, a taste of what it's like to be a caregiver. And with more and more young people getting some kind of dementia, there are going to be young caregivers. And I would hope that the world wakes up and sees what it's like to be socially isolated. But we're socially isolated now because we don't have a choice. There's a virus. But how would you feel if you were isolated because you didn't have a choice because you were taking care of your loved one and your friends and your relatives, and maybe where you go worship turns their back on you and your loved one. That's social isolation, folks, and this is what goes on in real life in caregivers. Now, if I sound harsh, well, this is Chatting with Betsy. I'll talk about the taboo, and I say it like it is because that's how I am. But, you know, we know, Jan, we know what it's like not to be able to go out and do what we want to do. And really, this pandemic, it really doesn't affect me. I mean, I lost my job for the time being, and I'm not going out, but I didn't go out anyway. I wanted to go out, but now I can't. But you know what? It's okay. I'm getting my rest. And I wanted to ask you, Jan, if you don't mind telling, how did being a caregiver for so many years change you as a person?
Boy, we've been a year out post caregiving now, and we have a great marriage, and I'm really thankful for that. But we've gone through so many changes, like so much frustration between the two of us that we didn't realize we had. I think it's I'm much easier to just back off and isolate from things. I mean, it's easier than having to do anything, deal with it. But it really has changed me because, these poor people are losing their minds and you're helping them live through it. And so I think it's definitely gave me way more understanding of what they're going through if you can understand that, and way more compassion. I love elderly people anyway, so that's a real blessing for me to be around elderly. I love them, but it's changed me a lot. I did it. I don't regret doing it. What we did, caregiving for our parents for all that time. Now, in hindsight, would I take on another? No, absolutely not. I'm done. I'm done caregiving, and I know I am. I've given it my all. I don't have any more to give that to. I just don't. If that makes any sense,
no, it makes perfect sense, Jan. I'm right there with you. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. It is. It's like it's over. It's like no more. No more. And so as I say that, I think, okay, I've got grandkids. What my husband and I we're in our 60s now. What if something happened to him? Of course, I wouldn't say no. But as far as walking into it like I did before, no. I would have to say, I'm sorry. You need to get find a medical facility for that person because I'm sorry I can't do it.
And that's okay.
I don't have it. Yeah, I don't have it in me. I just don't, and I know I don't. I'm done. Totally done with that. I'm sure I don't even realize how much it's changed me yet, Betsy. I'm still, we're still, walking through it, the aftermath of it. And we talk about it a lot, we reminisce about it and all the things. And I'll tell you, caregivers, when there's something you can laugh about, I don't care. It's twisted caregiver humor. You laugh because you've got to find humor. You won't survive if you don't. We didn't laugh at people to their face or anything. Me and my husband, many times at the end of the day, we'd be in our room and we would laugh about certain situations. And you just have to, because you have to find humor. I know I do. It's a survival technique for me. And so
yes.
You have to laugh. I'm not saying to laugh in anybody's face at all, but I'm just saying there are funny times. And there's many moments to be cherished, too. But, yes, there was many, many times we just rolled laughing because it was hilarious, so.
Yeah.
You got it.
I definitely, yes. I definitely agree with that, Jan, because I learned to have I worked as a nurse, so my humor got to be a little twisted, to survive seeing people in all kinds of conditions. But definitely in caregiving, you have to find humor.
I used to tell my husband, thank God the 70s, prepared for it.
Yes.
Because it was so funny. I mean, there was we would just crack up laughing, but you have to. And no matter how strange it may seem, find the humor in everything that you can, because that's a good therapeutic thing to do.
Absolutely. And I have to ask you this, Jan. Your husband must be a very special guy. You two weathered a lot of storms with caregiving, and I know that caregiving can either make or break a marriage or, a relationship. How did you and your husband survive, your marriage relationship survive through all these years of caregiving? Do you have a secret you'd like to share?
And we've talked about this in the group a little bit, the first group that we met in, Betsy. And Daryl and I, we do have a really good marriage, a really solid marriage. Not that it wasn't tested during this time, it certainly was. But, Daryl and I, even though we were busy with both our parents and stuff, and it's so chaotic, in passing, I could lock eyes with him and go, hey, we okay today? Just that the little connections, because you're exhausted. And you're emotionally exhausted. And so that all takes a toll on you. And then it's, frustration and sleep deprivation and all of it. And so I just, any little chance, like to hold a hand or to grab a second, have a cup of coffee together, whatever moment you can grab together, that's what I suggest you do. If you can get a break and somebody's going to babysit for you, take advantage of that. And just, we did get to take a break one time. We just went and just sat and visited. I mean, it was just, you got to connect when you can. You got to grab that moment together, because that's important. And then be ready for a roller coaster ride after you're done, because we've gone through many different phases of adjustment in the last year. We're good. We're doing really good. But there was some really just emotional times that I never thought would exist.
Yeah, I understand. Matt's mom, we lived with her for 5 years, and Matt wasn't really supportive. And our marriage suffered. That's not a secret. I've said that before. And, it was his mom, so he didn't show the support he should have for his mom. And a lot of times, in a marriage, like Matt had kind of made me the enemy, took it out on me. And I think like going for marital support if you can, counseling if you can, spending some time together. And I understand, because after Matt's mom died, you see that some people's marriages are in a rubble. And then you have to start, the reconnection, which is what happened. And then Matt's mom died in 2006. Matt, looking back in hindsight now, started showing symptoms in 2007, 2008.
Oh.
And so we didn't really get a chance to get 100% back because he got diagnosed, which is why I could personally say, please make time as a couple. Get a sitter, get counseling, do something to keep your marriage, together. Of course, if there was problems before, it's going to be more brought out, but just, try to weather the storm is what I have to say. Don't make each other the enemy. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm really big about, it's about the little things with me, like that moment. Grab that hand and, hey, you okay? Grab that moment and talk. If you can walk outside, just those moments. Those are, you need that. You both need that in a marriage. You both need that. And if you're caregiving, you need that even more, because
Absolutely.
you're not getting to be a normal married couple. You are sacrificing your lives for this other person. And so, you need to grab every moment that you can, whatever the case may be. If it's a passing or together in the hallway or go talk out on the deck or go in another room and have a conversation, sit for a minute, do those things. Do those things. Connect every chance you get with your spouse, with your mate. Yeah, very important.
Absolutely. Great advice, Jan. I agree 100%, because you see family members, it's a time that fall apart. It's a time when a family should be bonding together and being stronger together and not quibbling over silly things, or, of course, if you have siblings, who's going to take care of mom or dad, or who's going to, take care of them. Usually it falls on one child. And, of course, there's the money issues and all that other stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna be brutally honest here. In my situation, in all of our situations with family, taking care of our parents, the family members, the ones that took advantage, did that by the emotional tie. They take advantage by the emotional tie that they have with the sick person. And so it wasn't outsiders that wanted to steal or take advantage of our loved ones. It was family members. And you got to nip that in the bud and cut them off. And I will say this too, because I'm real big on saying this. Anybody that's trying to give you advice on how they think you should be doing the caregiving or doing this or doing that, if they're not 100% involved in the caregiving, their opinion does not matter. It doesn't count. It doesn't mean nothing, because they're not doing the caregiving. So they don't have a clue of what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. I mean, I would have to tell them straight up, you need to sit down and be quiet. And if you don't like how I'm taking care of, your dad, your husband, or whoever it is, then you take them and take care of them. And then I will critique you. I'll have them packed up and at your house.
Put up or shut up. That's where I'm at with it. Yeah, I there's no other words for it.
Yes.
Horrible.
Caregivers have to set boundaries, even with family members. If they're toxic to you, giving you aggravation that you don't need, I'm sorry to say this, but you might have to cut them off, but you have to make your boundaries very firm. And when they cross them, they need to be told that they crossed the boundary and you're done. And that's okay.
They will. They'll try and cross it. And you have to stand strong. You have to go, no, that's not okay.
That's right. Absolutely right. I really didn't get that problem. What I had trouble with Matt's mom is, his sister lived out in Minnesota, but his brother lived in New Jersey, and he wouldn't ask about, how his mom was doing. He babysat one time, and he wouldn't even wait till we came home. He left mom by herself.
Oh.
I was so furious. But, people think, oh, well, you're there, so you don't need any help. Or if you need help, you'll ask for it. But, some people may want their relatives to help and some may not, but, you could at least ask. Oh,
yeah, I found out with my siblings, it was better to just, just cut them out. It was better for my peace of mind. And, it's sad but true, but even to this day we don't talk, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
They can live with what they that's their stuff. It's not mine. I'm not going to do it.
Right. Jan, I so enjoy talking to you on the show. Thank you for being my guest. Can people get in touch with you or be able to look at your journey with your mom?
People can contact me. I'm Jan Smith Adams on Facebook. I don't do much through my email, but yeah, they could get a hold of me that way.
Okay, and what was your mom's name? Because I can't remember.
Frankie Smith.
Frankie Smith. Your mom was a beautiful woman. I remember the pictures of your mom that you posted when back in the day when she was a hairstylist. And a beautiful woman. And I just loved how you shared your mom's story and how you showed your mom the reality of the journey. And I appreciate your honesty. You were so easy to talk to. And this is why, folks, I love Jan Adams. I just talked to her really actually today for the first time, but we've, PM each other, and we were there, for each other when your mom was going through this and her passing, and you were there for me with Matt and appreciated that. And folks, tell your story. You don't know how important it is for you to share your story. I was after Jan for quite a while, wasn't I, Jan?
Yeah. I always knew we would.
Yes. And we had some technical glitches last week, but we did it. We got together, and I appreciate you coming on. And please feel free to come on whenever you want. If you like to talk about post-caregiving, we could talk about that because that's a whole nother show. Adjusting to life after caregiving. That is a good show to do. We'll have to get together and do that. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Jan. I want to thank everybody for listening. Please share this audio cast. It could help somebody. Please read the blogs that Jeanne White writes with great information. You can follow me on my own personal page, Betsy Wurzel, Wurzel. I have a support group, #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement. Jan is a member. We accept people all dementias. You don't even have to be a caregiver. You can just learn. If you're a post-caregiver, that's terrific. You could join. You could give great advice. And we have a lot of people there that are post-caregivers. I am for one. And I just want to tell everyone to keep safe, social distance, wear a mask, gloves, and protect yourself and your family. Wash your hands. And just enjoy your time at home, if you can, with your loved ones. Work on self-improvement, and just find your happy place and shine your light bright. This is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy and Passionate World Talk Radio. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.